The Oceanic Majesty glided through serene sapphire waters, a majestic vessel cutting through the waves with grace and elegance. It was a sight to behold, a floating paradise that promised adventure and relaxation in equal measure. A floating city of luxury, the ship boasted multiple decks filled with amenities that catered to every whim and desire of its passengers. From gourmet dining to lavish spas, every corner of the ship was designed to provide the ultimate in comfort and indulgence. Passengers basked in the sun, their worries melting away under the warm rays. They lounged on deck chairs, sipped on tropical drinks, and let the gentle rocking of the ship lull them into a state of blissful relaxation. Laughter and music filled the air, creating a festive atmosphere that was infectious. Friends and families gathered, sharing stories and making memories that would last a lifetime, but beneath the calm, the ocean whispered of change. The gentle ripples on the surface hinted at something stirring below, a subtle shift that only the most attuned could sense. Captain Eva Rostova, a seasoned mariner, sensed it. With years of experience navigating the world's oceans, she had developed an almost supernatural ability to read the sea. Today, something felt off. The sea was too still, too quiet. It was as if the ocean was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The usual sounds of the waves and the wind were conspicuously absent, replaced by an eerie silence. Weather reports mentioned a distant tropical depression. It was routine, something that ships of this size and capability could handle without much concern. Yet, there was an unease that lingered in the air. Routine, yet her instincts were on edge. Captain Rostova couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a routine weather pattern. She studied the reports intently, looking for any signs that might confirm her suspicions. Sarah, a young teacher, felt the shift too. The sky darkened, the wind turned cool. She had come on this cruise to escape the stresses of her daily life. But now she found herself unable to relax, her eyes constantly drawn to the horizon. A shiver ran down her spine. It was a feeling she couldn't quite explain, a sense of foreboding that seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to ward off the chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. Marco, a veteran deckhand, recognized the signs. He secured equipment, his movements quick and efficient. Years at sea had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now, they were screaming at him to prepare for the worst, exchanged knowing glances with the crew. The sea felt heavy, a palpable tension that everyone on board could feel. The crew moved with purpose, their usual camaraderie replaced by a focused determination, a calm before the storm. The sky grew darker, the clouds gathering like an ominous shroud over the ocean. The once bright and cheerful atmosphere of the ship was now overshadowed by a sense of impending doom. Hope was fragile on the open ocean. As the Oceanic Majesty sailed into the unknown, every soul on board felt the weight of uncertainty. They could only hope that their journey would not take a turn for the worse. Captain Rostova watched the weather charts with growing concern. The lines and symbols on the maps seemed to dance ominously, hinting at the chaos that lay ahead. She had seen many storms in her career, but something about this one felt different, more menacing. The crew depended on her judgment, and she knew every decision she made in the coming hours would be critical. The tropical depression had morphed into a fierce storm, veering towards them. Satellite images showed a swirling mass of clouds and wind, a force of nature that seemed almost sentient in its fury. The storm's path was unpredictable, and every update brought new challenges. The ship's instruments beeped and whirred, processing data that painted a grim picture. Code Orange was declared, and a new course plotted. The ship's engines roared to life, straining against the growing waves. The crew moved with practiced precision, each member knowing their role in this high-stakes dance with nature. The ship's bow cut through the water, but the storm was relentless, pushing back with every surge. Sarah felt the ship sway, the festive atmosphere replaced by unease. The once lively decks were now filled with anxious whispers and worried glances. Passengers clung to railings, their faces pale as the ship rocked. The storm outside was a stark contrast to the luxury within, a reminder of nature's untamed power. Marco worked with determination as rain fell in sheets. The deck was slick and treacherous, but he moved with the confidence of someone who had weathered many storms. His hands were steady, his eyes focused. Every task completed was a small victory against the encroaching chaos. The rain was relentless, drumming a constant rhythm on the ship's metal skin. The ship groaned under the storm's pressure. Metal strained and wood creaked, the sounds of a vessel pushed to its limits. The waves crashed against the hull, each impact a reminder of the storm's might. Inside, the ship's structure held firm, a testament to its design and the skill of its builders. Crew members moved efficiently, their eyes betraying concern. They communicated in short, urgent bursts, their movements a blend of haste and caution. Each person knew that their actions could mean the difference between safety and disaster. The camaraderie among them was palpable, a shared resolve to face the storm together. The first big wave struck. A collective gasp echoed in the lounge. The ship lurched violently, sending glasses and plates crashing to the floor. Passengers gripped their seats, eyes wide with fear. The wave's impact was a stark reminder of the storm's power, a force that could not be tamed or ignored. Fear was now a palpable presence. It hung in the air, a silent specter that touched everyone on board. The storm outside was a relentless adversary, and inside the passengers and crew braced themselves for whatever came next. The ship was a small island of humanity in a vast, angry sea, and every soul on board felt the weight of the unseen enemy they faced. "All hands, brace for impact," Captain Rostova commanded. The storm had been brewing for hours, but now it was upon them with full force. The crew, seasoned but visibly tense, scrambled to secure the ship. The wind howled like a banshee, and the rain lashed against the windows with a ferocity that seemed almost personal. A colossal wave slammed into the ship, alarms blaring. The sheer power of the ocean was on full display, and the ship's structure groaned under the immense pressure. The bridge was a hive of activity, with officers shouting coordinates and updates, trying to navigate through the chaos. Sarah was thrown, landing hard, panic filling the air. She had been on her way to check on the lower decks when the wave hit. Now, disoriented and bruised, she struggled to get back on her feet, the ship's violent movements making it nearly impossible. Emergency lights flickered, casting eerie shadows. The power had been compromised, and the ship was now running on emergency generators. The dim, erratic lighting added to the sense of dread that permeated every corner of the vessel. Marco, on a lower deck, clung to a safety line as water crashed over him. He had been trying to secure loose equipment when the storm intensified. Now, he was fighting just to stay upright, the relentless waves threatening to sweep him overboard. The ship groaned, waves relentless. Every creak and moan of the vessel was a reminder of the immense forces at play. The crew knew that they were in a battle not just against the storm, but against the very limits of their ship's endurance. Water seeped into corridors, the storm's fury unyielding. The lower decks were starting to flood, and the crew was working frantically to pump the water out. But it was a losing battle. The ocean was relentless, and the ship was taking on more water than they could expel. The oceanic majesty was in a battle for survival. Every wave that crashed against the hull was a test of the ship's resilience. The crew, though exhausted, were determined to see it through. They knew that their lives and the lives of the passengers depended on their resolve and skill. The storm was graded a catastrophic 13, unprecedented in ferocity. Communications faltered. Captain Rostova relied on her instincts. Sarah huddled in a safety zone, clutching a photo of her family. Marco helped secure a breach, working tirelessly with the crew. The storm's assault was relentless, waves hammering the hull. The ship was tossed, furniture became projectiles. Fear and destruction filled the air. Survival seemed distant. The starboard engine failed, the ship struggled against the waves. Mayday calls were swallowed by the storm. Sarah witnessed a rogue wave shatter a window, water flooding in. She helped an elderly man, a small act of kindness amidst chaos. Marco assisted in the makeshift infirmary, injuries mounting. The ship tilted at terrifying angles, survival a constant battle. Captain Rostova and her crew fought to steer the ship through chaos. Sarah began to sing, a fragile melody rising against the storm. Marco and crew formed a human chain, moving supplies through flooded corridors. Stories of heroism emerged, the human spirit shining through. Love, courage, and selflessness were their weapons against the storm. After nearly 20 hours, the storm's fury began to wane. Captain Rostova noticed a change, a glimmer of dawn breaking through. Sarah awoke to a calmer sea, hope flickering to life. Marco, exhausted, saw the first rays of light, relief washing over him. The storm receded, the oceanic majesty still afloat. The longest night was ending, but the ordeal was not over. Captain Rostova addressed the survivors, the ship's damage extensive. Sarah stepped onto the deck, the morning sun breaking through. Marco joined the cleanup, camaraderie among the crew stronger than ever. The lessons of the storm were etched into every survivor. The oceanic majesty became a legend, a testament to survival against impossible odds. Today, we remember their ordeal and triumph.